I'm just gonna come right out and say it, right now is probably the best time to be playing Tarkov in about 2 years. For those of us who've been through the ringer with this game, grinding wipe after wipe, it's not an understatement to say that morale has been pretty low in Tarkov City. And I promise it's not copium to say that this 0.14 patch most likely marks the beginning of Battlestate Games' redemption arc. I had been playing Tarkov since 2017 and making content for the game pretty much full time since 2019. And even I sat out the previous wipe entirely, because I was just burnt out on the lack of forward progress in so many areas. I'd gotten fairly cynical about the game and its future because I didn't see a future for Tarkov anymore. The light at the end of the tunnel for so many of us was this big patch. The rumor mill was working overtime about how we would finally be getting so many long-awaited new mechanics that would revolutionize the game. For my part, I was doubtful, I'll be honest about that. Let's wait and see, I said. I'll believe it when I see it. Well, I've seen it now, and I do believe it. This patch added vaulting, shoulder swapping, the new armor hitbox and modding system, fully reworked recoil, multiple guns, a new map, a reworked map, and performance improvements that actually seem to have worked for once. And then to put the cherry on top of this big beautiful cake, we got a surprise winter event that brought a blizzard to Tarkov, putting snow on all the maps, something that people have asked for since I started playing back in 2017. I have never wanted to hate on BSG or Tarkov, so it's always been bittersweet to feel so shitty and on the fence about the game, to the point where I wasn't even recommending it to friends anymore for the past year. It's so refreshing to finally see an unchallenged win from Battlestate. There's obviously never going to be a 100% consensus on anything, but for the first time in a couple of years, there seems to be just good vibes about the game, even from us tired old Tarkov veterans. Everywhere I look, I'm seeing good impressions about the new mechanics and especially the reworked recoil. The armor system is going to take time for us to understand, but overall is a pretty big W. Vaulting is like a gift from the heavens, and really the most controversial thing about this whole patch seems to be people complaining about being stuck on Ground Zero quests. And really that's just Tarkov for you, but this time instead of being stuck on customs, you're stuck in an absolutely beautiful city center. So what do I think about all the new additions? To start from the top, vaulting and climbing over obstacles has got to be one of the sweetest additions to Tarkov that I've experienced in many, many moons. If you've played Tarkov, then you've jumped on things in Tarkov, and you know firsthand just how miserable it can be trying to fumble around and jump over obstacles that always seem to be just a little too high or a little too far away. For a game that bills itself as an immersive experience, nothing screamed immersion more than getting stuck on a cardboard box because mama taught us to never climb on the furniture. Tarkov without vaulting also created so many areas that were just death traps once you walked into them. Think about the fenced yards of woods or shoreline, where once you walked into the yard you only had one way out, because you couldn't jump the fence without the elite stats and some know-how. Without vaulting, any waist-high piece of cover in Tarkov became a fearsome obstacle, one that would eat up a quarter of your stamina and force you to make a very loud and obvious noise to get over. It's a miracle to me that it never became a bigger sticking point within the community, but now that I've played Tarkov with vaulting, I don't know how I could ever go back. It feels so much more intuitive to move through the environment now. You can actually move like your brain wants you to move, navigating obstacles with the appropriate ease and swiftness. Getting over small obstacles no longer requires mechanical precision and double jumps. You just press spacebar and a million years of human evolution springs into action. Our PMCs finally remember how to use their hands for something other than reloading AKs and munching on Jaeger's sausage. People have found some areas where vaulting doesn't really work quite right yet, and obviously it wouldn't be Tarkov without people finding a way to exploit a new mechanic and get into unintended areas. But overall, it's very surprising how well it was implemented here in this first attempt. I'm a big fan of vaulting, and I really hope they go even further with stuff like two-man boost spots where we can push our teammates up over tall obstacles. Next up on the hit list, we've got to talk about that sweet, sweet recoil rework. It's no mystery to anyone who follows Tarkov discussions that recoil and the feeling of firing weapons in Tarkov was one of the biggest points of contention around the game for a long, long time. Tarkov is a game about guns, really. Aside from modded games, I don't know of any other developer who has put this many weapons into a game, and I know for a fact that no other game has ever put this much attention to detail into the modeling and animation of every single weapon in the arsenal. So it was a bit awkward then that basically everyone hated how it felt to shoot almost every gun in Tarkov. Everyone from the biggest armchair general milsim nerd to the sweatiest over-competitive PvPer just didn't like how firing a gun in Tarkov made it feel like the game took control of your aim. I built my following by showing people how to build good guns in Tarkov, and even I had lost all interest in even doing that anymore because it felt like nothing was worth recommending besides the same 5 or 6 builds that could actually get playable recoil since they were lucky enough to have good attachments. This new recoil system in the 0.14 patch has so far just been a huge net positive. It makes almost any weapon feel good to use. Dude, that felt better than shooting an Iron Sights AK has ever felt, ever. A completely stock AK feels better than a meta-built suppressed AK from last patch. SMGs feel even better than they ever did. Shotguns don't feel like you're firing an anti-aircraft gun, and pistols can actually make follow-up shots really well. The best part? This new recoil system actually rewards you for tap firing in semi-auto and firing in short controlled bursts, unlike the old system which actually punished you for not spraying until the recoil evened out automatically. This, much like vaulting, has made it much more intuitive to fire your weapons at stuff. You can tap fire to keep a good rhythm of shots while tracking a target, you can burst fire to remain accurate and conserve ammo, you can much more easily keep track of your sight picture while firing, and visually it also looks a lot better when your whole screen doesn't shake all over the place and recoil to the moon whenever you pull the trigger. Now personally, I do think that we will get individualized recoil nerfs for different weapons over time, because once people have played enough to get access to gnarly ammo and attachments, we might be in for some hellish gunfights where GigaChad PMCs can just 2-tap everyone in sight even faster than they already could. That being said, I do believe they made the right call to just make guns feel fun to shoot across the board, and then balance them individually as we work out what becomes annoying to play against in the next 5 months. And to be honest, I would rather have recoil be too easy to control than be stuck fighting an uphill battle in every firefight. For my part, I'm really excited to get back into making builds for all the weapons in Tarkov, this time without being so tied to only using stuff that works with the restrictive recoil system. I really disliked how it felt like I had to use the same parts on every build because I didn't want to recommend stuff to other people that kind of sucked, especially in a game like Tarkov. So definitely expect a return of the JDOG fashion builds, budget builds, and tactical creations that made me fall in love with Tarkov in the first place. Now, as far as the new armor system is concerned, I think this is something we're going to need a lot of hands-on time with before we can really make any decisions about it. Armor now has many more different hitbox zones, and so do players, and armor only protects what it visually covers, including the actual physical dimensions of the different armor plates used by different vests and body armors. This means that in theory, the difference between a large full body armor and a slim plate carrier with only front and back plates is going to be a lot more noticeable. I think this sounds awesome, but at the same time, I'm worried that the mobility advantage of a small plate carrier is not going to be replicated completely. One of the most controversial things about armor in Tarkov is that it affects your movement speed and specifically your turning speed. So I know increasing these penalties on full coverage armor is going to be a hard pill for some to swallow, but I think that it's probably going to need to happen. Otherwise, everyone will just unlock the armor with the most coverage zones that have plates in it, load it with the highest quality plates, and ignore pretty much everything else. Like I said though, we need some time for this to cook first, and see how we feel when people start getting more armored up. The new map, Ground Zero, is in my opinion overall a great addition to the game. It's set right at the Terror Group headquarters in Tarkov, and visually it's a pretty stunning map, showcasing beautiful modern architecture that's been torn apart by a spontaneous and brutal conflict. That being said, putting 12 players on it does make it a bit crowded, especially when we're all forced to complete 4 quests on there in order to unlock the other quest lines. So it's basically like dropping into the school in PUBG as everyone scrambles to get to the quest location. On the one hand, I can see why it's so frustrating to so many people, but on the other, I have to also remind everyone that this is Tarkov after all. The game isn't meant to be easy or fair or to help you out. I empathize with the frustrations, but with a little patience and preparation, you can get it done, just like everything else in Tarkov. And if you can't get it done right away, well, there's a bunch of other maps that you can play in the meantime while other people are finishing up and it empties out a little bit. Overall, I think Ground Zero is going to be a fun map to loot on and play as a scav as the wipe goes on, especially now that they've announced that we'll be able to queue into it above level 20, just in a different lobby from the other low level players. And with that, I've kind of ran out of things to say about this patch. Shoreline is my favorite map, so I'm glad to see it got reworked in this patch, and I've yet to use the shoulder swap in combat, so I don't know what to say about that really. Overall, this patch is the best Tarkov has felt in over a year, and I'm really excited to be back playing the game and brainstorming some new content for this wipe. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Has the hopium rotted our brains, or is this truly Tarkov's redemption arc? Thanks for checking out the video. I've got links to my Twitch stream and Discord server down below for anyone interested. And until next time, stay safe in Tarkov City.